Hello, and thank you for joining us today for this artist talk as part of Bainbridge Arts and Crafts June exhibition called Island Ink. Jan Branham is one of the artists in this exhibition, and she's here today to tell us a bit about the work she has in the show. After retiring from a 35-year career as an art teacher in high schools in California, Jan retired to Bainbridge and became a full-time printmaker. And she's been involved with several printmaking groups and is an active member of BARN, Bainbridge Artisan Resource Network, and also has attended many conferences and symposiums and is a member of the Southern Graphics Print Council and American Craft Council and Seattle Print Arts. Jan's recent work she calls Ancestors. It's a body of work incorporating collage and printmaking techniques that have as a jumping off inspiration point photographs from her family past, particularly her mother's family past in Texas. Taking old photos shot with a Brownie camera from the 20s through the 50s, some of which she knew the people in the photos, some of which maybe she didn't, and using those as inspiration for the work. So Jan, maybe you can tell us about discovering those photos and some of the process you went through to adapt them for your artwork.
Well, thank you, Deborah. That was such a nice interview. I really appreciate that. Well, let's see. My mother left me these photos in a box, and she was not a very good scrapbooker, or she was not a very good historian. So I have no idea who these people are, except to recognize them. And many times the dates aren't right. But what I do with my people is I take them and use their silhouettes or use their gestures or use their postures. And I take that shape, almost like a paper doll shape in some of my things that I've been doing recently, and glue that down after it's been painted and then print with it, print around it or add print to it, collaging it. I started with this Ancestors series, just doing basic monoprints. And the monoprints then evolved into etchings and then evolved into other areas, woodcut, linoleum. And I love to explore my medium. The printmaking medium I've been working with since I was in high school. Well, probably before that, but you don't really realize when you take a hunk of something and make a block print with it that you're doing printmaking. But I've gone through college. During the time I was teaching, I taught a lot of printmaking. But when you're teaching, at least when I'm teaching, I don't have much time or energy to spend on my own work. So when I retired and came to Bainbridge Island, I was just so surprised to find these printmakers here. There were so many of them. They were so accommodating and so genuine. Coming from California, the California art area, you don't have that genuine, warm, I'm here to be your friend and help you feeling when you're in an art group. And here it was just wonderful. So as I moved along with my different art techniques, they just evolved. And right now I am taking a class, and like one of the assignments was to cut out a lot of different shapes and place them together on paper. So I'm using my figures to do that with. And I have, this is sort of a new technique that I am working on. I didn't really plan on doing this, but I might as well show you.
Oh, great.
Here, I don't know if you can see this little guy here. Okay, he's one. And here's a woman, too. And these come from hand decorated papers. And I am going to then arrange them in some kind of a collage. But all of these, the decoration on most of these have been printed. So not only am I using collage techniques, but I'm using my printmaking techniques too. And I think I covered a huge area and it wasn't very good, but that's it.
No, it's great to see that. I'm curious. I'm not familiar with the term collograph. Can you explain what that is?
Yes, a collograph is a print made from something other than a pre-purchased matrix. That's not a good way to say it, but a pre-made matrix. For example, you wouldn't do a collograph on a wood with a woodcut, or you wouldn't do a collograph with a linoleum. Which, to make a collograph, you glue pieces down almost like a collage. Collograph, collage. Then you ink up those pieces that you've glued down on your matrix. And then that creates your print.
Wow.
And when you're doing prints, you don't have to do just one kind of a thing at a time. You can mix them all together a little bit, a little bit of etching, a little bit of printmaking, a little bit of a lino cut, a little bit of monotype. And, all of them working together is almost like an artist with his easel and his oil paints, really.
If you can see that, it seems to have some of the texture of the figures.
Yes, the collage in there. And do you see that, the circles that are there?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you see this man that I held up? Let's see where.
Yeah, that's why I thought I would share this
I
image.
think it's a smaller version circle, but, oh yeah, you can see him again.
Yeah.
But, I just use that print, on a lot of different things. And I thought it worked out really well because on the one that we're looking at there, I used the print on old book paper. And that gave it that kind of a different look to it. And then the background is, I'm trying to think of how I did that, but I think it's just a wash. I think it was just a watercolor wash was for the background, but that's definitely collage. And I really like collage because you don't put it down forever. I move it here. Do I like it here? Can I move it there? Is it pleasing to my eye? And does it make it interesting? And does it work with the composition? So I like being able to make those adjustments as I'm working.
I'm looking at the image behind you, the figure
yes.
holding some fish, and he seems
yes,
to
yes. It's a young man holding fish. And it is on I think I have that one on my website. And I'm not really sure who the boy is. I think a cousin, I think. But maybe someone older than that. But the reason I sort of like that is, do you remember the Picasso where the boy is leading the horse in that Picasso painting? And he doesn't have a rein on the horse. His hand is just held up. And the rein, your eye puts the rein in from his hand to the horse. Well, that's sort of the same. I know I gave a salute to Picasso, not that I should be able to salute him, but anyway, because the line for the fish there is not there. The boy's hand is holding it up, and I'm using the, your mind to create the line there, the fishing line.
Yeah, that really works.
But that's one of the first ones that I did, and that is a collograph. That one is, I used a shellac plate, and a shellac plate is where you put shellac on a cardboard, and then it dries, and you peel away the shellac, and it leaves an area there that will absorb ink when you roll it on. And then you run it through a press.
Does the shellac remove kind of an outer layer of?
Well, the shellac prevents the ink from absorbing into the plate. But the areas where you remove the shellac afterwards, the ink can go into there because it's absorbent.
And that's always.
And then I think, how did I add the color on that? The color is Shinkale. That is a technique where you cut out a shape like a shirt. And when I printed it, I put the shirt there with glue on the back, and it printed over the shirt as the shirt glued down onto my paper.
Wow, I would love to see you do that.
It can be done in many different ways, and it can be done pretty easily too. Even with a block print, it can be done. So. But all of these techniques, I really have to tell you, all of these techniques, I really did not learn until after I retired. I went to college in the 60s, and they did have the wheel then. And they had invented the printing press, and we had lithography, but there was no etching, and silkscreen was just beginning, the Andy Warhol kind of time. And so when I retired, I came here and I met so many wonderful younger women who had majored in printmaking, and Kelda Martinson from Seattle and Kim Van Summerenberg from Seattle. And they taught me so much about printmaking, and it was just such an honor to learn from them. Mm-hmm. And also another mentor I have here on the island is Wendy. Mm. And these Wendy
yeah, she seems to have had a pretty deep influence on a lot of people.
A huge influence on a lot of people.
Show, in fact.
Oh yes, Linda and Pam. And I met Linda and Pam at one of Wendy's workshops. Mm-hmm. And we sort of, I don't know if I should talk about this, but I'll mention it. The Print Chicks. Did anybody talk about the Print Chicks?
Yes, it has come up.
I'm sort of embarrassed about the name. Not Linda's husband, Karen's husband.
Oh.
She's the one that gave it the moniker of where the Print.
Great.
So, we all needed a press. Printing, you have to have a press. And Wendy had a nice press, and she let us use it when she opened her studio. And then there was Richard Nelson, who owned art, Oil and Water. It was an art store in town, and he had a press, and he let us use his press too. And we sort of followed it around to different places. So, and then eventually I think we all ended up getting our own presses. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was an interesting time.
When did you move to the island?
Let's see. We've been here 15 years. Yeah.
It's a good long time.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. I mean, we're not, but it is. And can I ask you a personal question? Where did you come from?
Sure. I've lived all over the country. I also spent time in California. That's mostly where I grew up, in Southern California. Mm-hmm. Most recently, I spent almost 4 years in Tennessee as director of a craft center there.
Okay.
Before that, Maryland, and before that, Rochester, New York, and spent some time in Rhode Island as well.
So, you've gotten around.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just had to ask you that.
That's all right. I would like to ask you more about like the subject matter that evolves in your work. So it sounds like the photographs that you found from your family past are really kind of the spark of inspiration, and then you start to collage or combine different aspects into the work from that. Would you say that you're coming up with kind of a combination of real memories and maybe sense memories that are maybe a little fantastical, combining with the real?
Yes, I really like that, because I was thinking about that. I was thinking, how real are these memories that I have? But you know what, the visual memories, I think, are pretty accurate. But the sensual ones, as you talked about, I remember under the fig tree at my grandparents' house, and the smell of the fig tree and playing there, and my grandmother's kitchen. And I still have the bowl that she made bread in. We use it here all the time, and also too, by doing these things, I feel like maybe my grandparents, even my parents, are still sort of with me and around, and it's comforting, and then it's comforting in another way too, because each time I do something, I don't have to decide what my subject matter is going to be. I want to do an etching. Oh, this would work well, or this would work well. It's it's like wearing all black every day. You don't have,
right. That goes with it all.
Yeah.
Do you find meaning kind of arises as you go through your process?
Yes, definitely. And then there's questions that come up,
Mhm.
why did she not have a husband? What happened to her husband? Things like that. And this was a family that was a very Baptist family.
Mhm.
And so certain things were not talked about. And I think a lot of families, no matter what their religion is, there's a lot of things they don't talk about. But, I just wonder, and there's no one, I'm the matriarch of the family now, which is so sad. And there's nobody for me to ask. Do you remember this?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I wish I had asked a lot more questions when my grandparents were still alive.
yeah, yeah.
Well, your work is really wonderful, and I look forward to seeing it in person and uh, getting to see the show up, which is going up soon.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody else's work too. And I'm really honored to be shown with these other women because I've known them for 15 years, and that's a long time to see their artwork change and to see their uh, subject matter change and just their emphasis. And and this is how wonderful for all of us to be together.
Yes, especially now. And it's so wonderful, so many artists, they go through, education and come out the other side, and they don't have the daily kind of support system that an art school program provides. And it seems that you guys really serve that need for each other.
Yes, we have. Art can be lonely. You're in your studio, you're by yourself with maybe a radio, the dog on the floor. But being able to have a group that you can go to and talk about, your interests and your areas, really, it's something that all of us really appreciate. We talk about it all the time, how lucky we are.
Mhm.
And one thing that facilitates it, Wendy facilitated Orville, and also the barn facilitates that too. And we've really missed it during this time that we haven't been able to use that facility. A lot of people have. So
Yeah, it always amazes me how you can be working on something, and then if you show someone else, they see something in it that hadn't ever occurred to you, just drawn from
yes,
their life experience through the lens of, what they've done in the world. They,
yes, yes. And having someone that you let's see, how can I you their critique, you're comfortable with the way they're going to critique you.
Mhm.
They're not going to slash you to ribbons. They're your friends, and
Yeah,
they're going to tell it nicely, but they're not going to, they're not going to sugarcoat it.
right. Anyone who's been through art school knows that that comfort level doesn't always exist.
No, 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 never. I had one professor who always said, "That's a motel painting. You're painting
Oh.
motel pictures." Well, hey, if you can pay the bills with those, good luck.
Well, it's really been a pleasure to speak to you about your work and life and interests and craft and techniques. I'll
Okay,
be-
well, thank you so much. And it's been wonderful speaking with you. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet you. And we'll see you soon, I hope.
yes, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Be sure not to miss Island Ink, a printmaking exhibition at Bainbridge Arts and Crafts from June 4th through June 27th.